Welcome, welcome. This is your first time playing Gwent, or you've never played it. Well, I'm going to walk you through in a series of videos, step by step, everything you need to know and do to have a fun experience in Gwent. I might not train you to be the best player that ever was, but I'm going to teach you enough stuff that you'll be able to become as good as you want to become. So, first things first. We're starting in the very first screen. I have read and accepted the agreement. I've read it before. You can view the entire user agreement if you want to by clicking on the side and going through that. That's a choice you can make on your own. I'm not providing any legal advice here, though I am a lawyer, so I'm not going to further comment on this screen. But that is the first thing you have to do to start playing Gwent. I have created an alternate account so that I can walk you guys through every single stage of this process. So here's the intro video. Honestly, most of the stuff that this describes is no longer how the cards work. Detlef's card no longer does damage. But you don't have to worry about any of this anymore. Just note that the graphics look really cool because of all the people at CDPR who are on the Gwent team. The graphic designers deserve the biggest pay raise. They create the most quality content that always works, and it's always awesome. Okay, so it's going to start you off with 3 short battles just to teach you how to beat your opponent. Note that this is just showing you basic card interactions. Ignore all of this with respect to how the game works. Okay, so it's going to make you do these 3 battles, and the game has changed significantly since they first released it in how these cards actually work together. So the very first thing they start you with here is with these 3 cards. You can play any of these that you want. You want to play Dandelion Vainglory because this is a beast and you're going to kill him right away. So play that and you're the best. So he just destroys an enemy beast, so that's kind of fun. Wolves come down. There's no attack phase in Gwent, so you're just playing cards down to get points. This card has actually changed since I first did the introduction, so I wanted to update this video to show you how it works now. So now this card spawned a card on each side. Again, don't worry about any of this. You're just noting that people play down cards and they do things. That's like literally all you have to worry about. Looks like we lose here like no matter what. I don't think there's any way to actually win that one. So whenever you play this though, it's played across 3 rounds, so it's just going to let you play 3 cards and then we'll finish out that round and we'll keep going. So don't stress about this. Don't think too much about it. Don't even bother reading all of the cards and trying to figure out what they say or mean. Ignore them, except for Geralt because he's the best. You're just playing down cards. Alright, so Geralt actually makes a ton of sense here. We're just going to eliminate this card. And you can lose this game and it won't matter. This literally matters for nothing else. Yay, we're the best! Honestly, we probably should have just passed there, but again, we're not worried about any of this gameplay. Just get unlimited numbers of these. Okay. So you want to save to play this card last nominally. I'm going to walk you through every single card that you get in the beginning. Don't worry. Okay? Just really do not worry about this. Just note that you each take turns playing cards and that the cards do things. That's literally all you need to learn from this entire experience. Boom, we're the best. Nobody is better than us. We are the greatest player to have ever played this game. Yay, you're a winner. Yeah. It's going to force you to do this 2 more times. There's no way out of this. I really wish there was. I'm reliving this entire experience just so I can see how you guys feel. So every turn you actually can do something called Mulligan, which is you put the cards back. and get different cards. For some reason, it gave me Northern Realms cards with the Skellige leader, but who am I? So when it says select and use ability, this is your leader ability, which will matter later. We're just going to go ahead and kill one of those because cool. So your points are detailed on the right side of the screen. So I'm just going to describe a little bit about how the game works. So this is the leader. The number below it are how many times that it can use it. If it shows a little hourglass, that means how many turns you have to wait before you can do it. And then this is the pass end turn button. So here it's telling you, hey, your opponent used strong cards. If I were to play this card, I would just be playing this card and still losing because she would play for 2 plus 4, which is 6 points, which quick math is 14. I drop the enemy down to 16 points. I'd still lose by 2. So there's no reason for me to play this card if I'm not going to win. And since Gwent is a card game played over 3 rounds, I actually get to keep this card to play it in the next round. It looks like it's feeding me actually several cards here. So Dolbothana Archer did get buffed. They made the card better. I really want Rodvid. We're going to go for Master Crafted Spear first and just kill all of these individual units. And Rodvid should be more than enough value for us. So since we are in the lead now, we play enough cards to win, and then we just go ahead and take the pass. Not a whole lot of thinking required here. I want to try to get our Trident infantry. Better than Swallow. Okay, nope. Player who wins the prior round gets to go first in the next one. I would not think of this as a gets, more as a has to go first. Typically, in any game that has, damage, removal, attack, whatever, going second is preferred outcome because you can dictate. You can respond to whatever the opponent is doing. Wow, this card doesn't even do its full ability. Alright, so the opponent's just trying to get as many of these out here as possible. We're going to play Dolbothana Archer, get rid of 2. And I'll walk you through what orders mean and all that stuff. Don't worry about it. Seriously, just don't worry about any of this. Just get familiar with the board. Note that there are 4 rows. On your own side, you have a melee row, which is the one up front, and a ranged row, which is the one in back. They are shown by the symbols: a sword for melee, a bow for ranged. There are some cards where that will matter, and Dolbothana Archer is one of those. So if I look at this card, it's going to say melee and ranged. It gives me 2 options. And again, I'm going to walk you through this card. Don't stress about what it does too much. Just note that I do want to do the ranged here, and that's why it's lighting up for me. Saying, hey, make sure you're playing this where you mean to play it. This is called a row effect, so the opponent is playing something called Fog. And also remember these leader abilities. So the opponent has used, note that it said 5 before, but now it doesn't show any. That's because they've used all of theirs. And I can use mine every 2 turns. That's what this 2 cooldown means. So they actually play. So this unit has deploy range, damage enemy unit by 2. They played it onto the melee row, so it doesn't get that ranged damage effect. Not a big deal, but right now, but it is going to matter later. Ranged versus melee is a big deal in Gwent. Always has been, always will be. Yay, we won again. We won 2 out of 3 games. I'm the best. You're the best. If you're watching this while you're playing the first time, you are running through the ropes, running through the courses, and kicking butt. So, rounds and cards in Gwent. So for every round you get 10 cards, then you take turns playing those 10 cards until someone passes. Remember that you need to win 2 out of the 3 rounds, so you should have some cards for later. Note that you can draw, and if you draw, that's counted as a win for both players. So it's just winner take all for the next round. Unless it is round 3, then you both tie. So unused cards stay in your deck. Each player plays cards until both pass. Again, you have to win 2 rounds. So you choose when and how you want to play all of those cards. Gwent is really a game of determining how many cards you want to play in which round and metering out your cards appropriately. Any cards remaining from previous rounds carry over, and each player draws 3 cards, but you can only have 10 cards total in your hand. So the thresholds that are important in Gwent, and you just remember this, and we'll walk you through it later, but are 10, 7, and 4. And that's because you draw 3 cards between rounds. So at round 1, you start with 10 cards. If you play down to 7 cards, you'll draw back 3 and go up to 10. If you play down to 4 cards and you win, you can do something called dry pass, which is where you just pass round 2 without playing anything. You win round 1 at 4 cards, you pass. Next round you draw 3 cards, you go up to 7, and then you're going to dry pass and you're going to draw another 3 cards, which takes you to 10 cards. So you're back to the maximum number of cards. So that's why 10, 7, and 4 are very important thresholds in Gwent. Just keep that in mind as we continue to play this final game, because it will matter here. If I remember correctly, it's been forever since I've played this intro. So, as my turn starts, which means I get to redraw an additional card. So these are also referred to as mulligans, like in very similar in golf, where you're like, crap, can I get a mulligan? So here you get to mulligan away 3 cards because I'm going first. So that is an advantage that's given to the first player, because again, in a responsive game, think like checkers is a really good example for this. It's, if all else being held equal, going second is better. In a game where you are killing the other person's things or taking the other person's things, or able to kind of like manage your points simply against the opponent, being able to see what they've placed and then going after them and shooting for that, or just barely beating that or equaling that, is a major tactical advantage. So in Gwent, whoever goes first gets to do these mulligans 3 times instead of the regular 2. For all other rounds, you'll get 2 of these. So just note that that's how that happens. And whoever goes first is randomly decided. Basically, the game flips a coin and it gives the first to the person who wins that coin top, or loses, depending on how you want to look at it. But we'll just call it wins for now. So like if you win heads, then you go first. So now I gotta decide on cards. And before you worry about the specifics of each individual card and what they mean and what they do, I just want you to look at one thing when you first start this game: the border color of the card. Now it's pretty faint here, but you can see where I trace around. It highlights in blue the border, so I can't see it when it's highlighted here. But if you look closely, this is bronze. So these are referred to as bronze cards. All of these cards down here, these 8 cards, are all bronzes. These top 2 cards, these 2, they're both golds. They are gold cards. And just like in the Olympics, Gold are better than bronze. They just are. Okay, just deal with it. For whatever reason, society has decided that it is of more value. So here, golds are of more value. And if you right-click on your computer, or if you're on a tablet or phone, you can just hold down. That's going to do the same thing as right-clicking. And it's going to bring up the card. It's going to show you the animation for the card, which is super cool. But it's also going to describe to you what the card does. So if I right-click on this, you can see more in closer detail. This is a gold card. Note there are also arrows on the side, and you can swipe on your phone, or you can click on the computer, or I can actually use my keyboard on the computer, which I'm using right now. I'll do it really loudly so you can hear. And you can just press right to left. When you're playing against other real human players, there will be a clock, so you'll have to worry about that. But for your first few times in the tutorial, don't stress. Just come in here and look through these cards. Just get a good sense of what is a gold and what is a bronze. That's all you need to worry about right now. Golds are better than bronzes. Now, next things next, there are 3 types of cards. There are units, which this one is a unit. This is a person, basically, and that's not always like a great description here, but you're going to notice this at the top left part of the card. So units play for points. That's what the point value is indicating up here. And these are special cards, so they are outlined with like a little fire. So spells, weather, as this is fog, right? Are specials. This is a unit. This is a special. See, this is just like a potion. This is a unit. 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 When you're very first playing the game, I want you to focus on units. There are some really cool specials, and they do a lot of cool things, but they're a little tricky. They don't put points on the board for your side most of the time. They don't innately put points on the board. So specials are usually better played later in the game, and they take a little bit more finesse. So when you're first playing, I want you to look here and say, okay, I see these cards don't have any points. Just go ahead and mulligan those away. And I know somebody is going to get on here and be like, no, specials are so good. Da, 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 da. Have you played the game for more than 10 minutes? Yeah, you figured that out. There are some really good specials. You've learned that. But you've played the game for more than 10 minutes. I'm talking to people who are literally 17 minutes into watching this game. Just go ahead and put those away. Don't worry about them. Just get those units out here. And that's all we're going to worry about. I can tell you so many more specifics about these cards and what I think about all of them. But it's really not worth my time, so I'm not going to stress about it. This card, I just don't love Hawker Healer. Just trust me when I tell you that. So I have now mulliganed 3 cards away. Looks like I still only have 2 golds. But I also have a bunch of bronzes. And I'm going to have to decide here what I want to prioritize, what I want to play. And the things that I'm going to focus on first are just getting points on the board. And the easiest, best way to do that, in my opinion, is to look for a card like Dandelion Poet. So he's going to draw a card and play a card. And the reason that's important is because you have 25 cards in your starting deck. And that gives you all of these cards. And you can come and hold down, if you're on mobile, you hold down and click on this pile. This is your draw pile. It's not showing you the order, and it never will. There are certain cards that can do that. Later on, we'll worry about those. But right now, this is just showing you in a random order what cards are in your deck. And this is the 3rd type of card. So I was waiting to get to this deck. I was hoping to draw one, but we didn't. This one that shows like a chalice, this is an artifact card. So you can also, I think, if you're going to play the game, artifact cards are also really good. They play onto the board and they stay there, and then you can use them to do things. So you can remember, though, me teaching you about the importance of these leader abilities. Looks like this one is a cooldown of 2. Ours is a cooldown of 2. But if you remember from that last one, they could use it 5 times because those are called charges. And there's an important dynamic in this game called orders and charges. And you're going to see the bottom of this card right here, it says ZZZZ. That just means it's like sleeping. I don't know why they did that. I kind of wish they'd do like an hourglass or something. But this card has an order. That means it has something that you can click on it to make it do. Whenever you play an order card that says ZZZZ, that means you have to... Am I saying too many Z's? ZZZ. Saying it 4 times. It just says ZZZ. You place this down and you wait until your next turn to actually use it. So here I'm actually thinking to myself, oh, okay, this Elven Swordmaster looks pretty good. I'd like to get him out. But first things first, I'm going to play this Dandelion Poet because he's going to draw me a card. He's also going to summon Roach out, which is kind of helpful. But we're not worried about that. But he is drawing me a card, and then I get to play one. So I'm actually going to play out this Elven Swordmaster. Now, you'll also notice that Roach came out. So Roach has this special ability where he comes anytime you play a gold card. So notice he's also gold. It's a really worthwhile card. If you've ever played the Witcher games, you know and love Roach. If you watch the show, you know and love Roach. Roach is the best. So there we go. Oh, and I just clicked something called the Stratagem. Whoever goes first gets that special ability that's already down on the table. And I just clicked that without thinking, sorry. That boosts a unit by 5 points. So you saw this came down at 4. And then I clicked that little Stratagem and boosted it by 5. So it's now 9 points. So it's harder for the opponent to kill. And we're just going to go ahead here and use its order ability. Use my leader order ability. And when you're first playing, I recommend that you start with those. Then you worry about your cards. So you take care of those 2 things, then worry about your cards. Now, as you get more experience, you might want to change up the order on that. But when you're first starting, just do it like this. I think it's going to make a lot more sense for you, and it'll be a little bit easier to do. Okay, so my next card I want to play here is Vrihid Vanguard. That's because he has something called a deploy ability, which means as soon as you play the card, it's going to do that thing. And his deploy ability is boost self for each elf in your hand. Which brings me to keyword categories on a card. So obviously Geralt, if you've watched the show or played the game or anything like that, you know he's a Witcher. He's not a human, he's a mutated human, which is a Witcher. That's what he is. That's his race right here, or his species, depending on monster cards and whatnot. Elves are elves. Vrihid Officer is an elf, so he's an elf. Scoia'tael Neophyte, he's an elf. Doblathon Archer, an elf. An elf, an elf, an elf, an elf, an elf. And Fog, which is nothing because it's not a person. So this one actually looks really good to play early on because I have a lot of elves still in my hand. So I can either play him or I can play this Fog, just because the Fog isn't an elf. So I don't lose any points by playing Fog first. So if I were to play this Vrihid Vanguard, he would get boosted by every other elf in my hand because he would no longer be in my hand, right? I just played him. And that is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different elves. Obviously, Fog's not an elf, and it goes for 3 turns. So I'm actually going to do it now. So I went through all of that explanation just to say I'm playing this special card. But so Fog will do 2 damage to the lowest unit on a row every 2 turns. So, and here you're seeing the Armor Smith boosts an allied unit by 2 if it's damage boosted by 4 instead. So, kind of obnoxiously healing that up a lot. But we're gonna go for the Vrihid Vanguard here, and you're gonna see something else. So this guy is on a cooldown. Remember that hourglass, and the number is how long you have to wait. And if you read the bottom part of the card, it says whenever you play an elf, decrease cooldown by 1. So it's going to make it so you can use her ability more. Hashtag women can be nasty elven swordmasters too. Hashtag feminism. And then so we're going to play Vrihid Vanguard here. And remember how I said it's going to boost by 6? So boom, he goes all the way up to 8. He was 2, now he's 8 because he boosted himself by each of these 6 units. And then this reduced the cooldown on this elf by 1. So it was timed to go off with our leader ability, but now we can use it right away. There we go. So the opponent here is just playing out some other cards. Now, it is important, I think, to try to win round 1, because that gives you something called last say. So if all else being held equal, if you each have the same number of cards, if you win round 1 and you lose round 2, the opponent will go first round 3. And almost always you're going to play out 3 games. There are some exceptions, but it's, it is very much the exception to the rule. So if you go first round, if you win round 1, regardless of if you went first or second, you go first round 2. If you lose round 2, the opponent goes first round 3. And if the opponent goes first round 3, remember me describing how it is tactically advantageous to go second? Well, that's because in round 3, you get last say, which is to say you get to do your card last. That's if you have the same number of cards, which is why keeping the right number of cards in your hand matters. So basically, though, if I'm going first and I'm up by a reasonable number of points, which I am here, I can go down to 4 cards. Because remember, 4 plus 3 plus 3, and I can still be in a safe spot. So I'm going to play my bonded cards. This is a keyword bonded. I'm going to walk you through this later on. Don't worry about it too much. Just note that I want to play that. And I don't really care if it does the damage or the attack, but I'm going to go ahead and just kill off this guy. Because cool. And we're going to proc a damage here. Remember that fog does 2 damage to the lowest unit, so it's going to finish off that guy. And there we go. So the opponent here passes at 7 cards, so they'll start with 10. And we'll start with 9. And we could have played all the way down to 4 and then just passed immediately round 2 and drawn back up to 10. So remember, that is something that we could have done. I just don't love her. Okay, so here, what I actually want to do is try to just get rid of some cards that I don't like that much. And we'll see how they're playing in terms of points. But I'm not going to stress about it too much. So Scoia'tael Neophyte is really not great value here. He's going to spawn an exact copy of himself on the other row. And you notice he has this ZZZ. He has an order. There's nothing he says cooldown, so he only does it once. And here you see this on-crate Marauder went ahead and killed off one of my units. So how annoying, how frustrating. But I'm going to show you what this guy does. So he has this one order that he can use one time, and he can convert a unit. He's going to transform it. So see how it flipped around? It is no longer that card, and it has changed. So when you do transform, it's going to totally change that card into the other card. And CDPR, the people who have made Gwent are really helpful here, and they'll show you exactly what it's going to turn into, and they'll describe what it is. So this is, so when it's like separated by these lines, that's what's going to happen. So what it's going to change into, or the other card that it works well with. And so that's why it's showing this other one here. So we're done with that. And we are down by points. And note that if the opponent were to pass right now, they would beat us by 1 point. And we would be down a card. But because we draw 3, 7 plus 3 is 10, we'll still be okay. So here, I just want to hold this down, and that's going to pass. It makes it so you hold it down. That way you can't accidentally pass, because you can forfeit the game by passing prematurely. Perfect. All right, so we're going into round 3. The opponent has 10 cards. We have 10 cards, so we are going second. All right, so we're going to put that back, and then this card, Bonded, just basically means, and you can always read what a card does on this right side. So if you are interested and you're like, Gun Gaming, tell me what you mean. What is this? What is I just need to know. Tell me what the cards do. You can read through all of these if you want to. And it's going to tell you what they mean on that side. So remember, Melee row is the front row. Ranged row is the ranged row. So he does a different thing when you play him to the front row. He's going to damage enemy unit by 2. If you play him to the ranged row, the back row, he's going to boost an allied unit by 2. Allied units are your units. Enemy units are the opponent's units. And then this is deploy, so it happens when you play him. And the bonded means that you trigger both of the abilities. So it tells you what you do, and it's going to do both of these things if there is another one of this same card on your side of the board that you control. So if you have played one of these already, the second one you play will play for an additional 2 points because it'll either attack an enemy unit or boost one of your own units and then do the other one as well. So bonded cards are really good if you get them together. If you don't get them together, they're usually not super great. So since we already played one, we're just going to get rid of that. All right, this guy has something called formation. We're going to cover this when we go through Northern Realms. Just note that it's annoying and it's problematic. So we're going to try to get rid of that by going ahead and playing this Dolbathana Bowman. Actually, let's play this Rain first, and we'll use a leader ability. Honestly, in these practice games, you have a lot of options. And there's no right way to play Gwent. You could have here, if you were in my position, played the Vrihid Vanguard. That works out really well. I don't know why they did that. So you can use this ability to hit your own units. And that's what the opponent opted to do. I have no idea. I think it's probably just a glitch. Okay, so note that like the Vrihid Vanguard would play for 1 more point if I played him before the Swordmaster, but I want the Swordmaster to come down. That way I can use the Swordmaster to do more damage. And note that Rain is 2 random units, so I actually want to move some units back onto the opponent's back row. So the way that I'm actually going to do that here, I'm gonna place a damage there. I'm gonna place a damage here, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and use this Geralt Aird, and that's gonna push back these 3 units and do 2 damage to each of them. So 2 of them only had 2 points, so I damaged them enough to kill them off, so they're gone. Another one of these guys boosting by the amount of damage. And Geralt was not a witch, was not an elf, so I didn't feel like I was losing any value off of these. I was just trying to get that damage value off the Rain. So I know a lot of specifics there that are probably bending your brain a little bit. Don't worry about it. There's a lot going on. I'm going to walk you through how to play each of these decks, each of these factions. Do not stress about it. You're going to be just fine. I'm going to get you covered. We're just playing our cards and doing what they tell us we can do, using all of these abilities as fast as we can use them. Don't want to, because they're on cooldowns. If we miss it in 1 turn, it'll just be lost points that we could have gotten. So we're just trying to get away from that. Easy peasy. Just trying to punish this guy, damage him, because he's going to damage one of us by 2. I actually should have played this card to kill it off, but we are where we are. Not a big deal. We're going to be just fine. I think when you're first starting off, you need to learn how to play each of the decks, not because you're going to play them, but because you need to understand a little bit better how the opponent is playing them. And if you've never played that deck before, you have no idea what they're attempting to accomplish. So you've never played either of these decks, so you have no idea what they have, what they're wanting to do. This symbol means nothing to you except for maybe France. So you don't have any idea what's going on. Don't stress about it. We're just finishing off this game. Right now we're up by 20 points. I think we're going to be just fine. So the opponent actually moved this unit for us. All right, so note that there's a choice between ranged or melee. Heal means whenever a unit is red, they've lost their points from where they started off. So this right here is going to describe the card and tell you where they started off. And red means they're below where they started off. Green means it's above where it started off. So boost means that you're gonna add 2 points of value to something of one of your own cards. Heal means that you're going to replace up to that many number of points of what's missing. So like for this guy, it's missing 4. I have no red cards. So I don't want to play the heal because it's not going to do any value. The boost will give me 2 points. I'll just go ahead and play that. Play that, then it will automatically pass for you when you have nothing left to do. Same thing with ending your turn. So there you go. We absolutely won. You're the best. You've accomplished the very beginning tutorial. Oh, that feels so good. We're going to end this video here because that was a lot of content, not going to lie. We covered a lot of stuff, and there's still a lot more to cover. But we're going to break this into chunks and get you guys situated so you feel a little bit more comfortable playing Gwent. Until next time, though, good luck out there. Have some fun. And keep on Gwenting. Bye for now.